All right, Mr. Jim, I see we have some plants on the table here.
Yes, we brought a few that are just really easy to grow, low maintenance plants.
Easy, low maintenance.
Easy to grow.
Wow.
As long as you get the green side up, they'll grow.
All right.
Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about a few of them. Right? The first one we've got over here, this is an oak leaf holly. I like this one because it makes a good corner plant. It's only going to get about 8 to 10 feet tall, and it grows conical, so you don't have to do much trimming. Now, like most, like me, I grew up before I grew out. They do the same thing. So you have to do a little tip trimming to thicken them up. But it's a great plant, and it's one of the few hollies that is both male and female. So if you've got it, it'll produce berries even without another one around. It's a really good plant, and it's not, although it looks sticky, it's not. You can put your hand in there and not come out bleeding. So that's a good plant for a corner. The next one we're going to talk about here is an Abelia. Used to, the Abelias were large, leggy, ugly-looking plants, but they've done so much in hybridizing now. This one is kaleidoscope. This one, bright green foliage in the spring, and then as the season progresses, you get pinks and yellows, and it's going to max out around 4 feet. But there are new low ones. There's twist of lime, twist of orange, twist of lemon, and you kind of gather what color they're going to be by the foliage. But they're really a huge selection. They bloom most of the summer. They're really, really a good plant, and you don't have to do much to them. Okay.
And usually when I hear about Abelias, bees.
Yes,
bees hang around.
They do. If you want to bring bees to your garden, it's good. It's not a plant I'd put by the pool, but it is a good plant. The next one is a native plant, the Yaupon Holly. Now this is a dwarf one, and this is a male. It doesn't produce berries, but it's a great foundation plant, background plant for perennials. If you let it go, eventually it would get 5 or 6 feet tall, but it'd be very long time getting there. 1 or 2 trimmings a year, and you can keep it at 2 or 3 feet or whatever you want, but nothing bothers it. It's good drought resistance. You just can't have a more dependable plant. And there's so many variations of the Yaupon. Some are tree form, some are weeping. There's a new one called Scarlet's Peak that grows like a telephone pole. That's a very heavy barrier. It's just, there's just a remarkable group of plants. Okay.
All right. Quick question for you.
Yeah.
How can you tell a male from a female plant?
Well, only when it's in bloom. It's the only way. If you catch it when it's in flower, the flower looks like a tiny dogwood flower. If you look in the center and there's a hole, that is a little boy. If there's a ball in the center, that's a female.
Very good.
But you got to catch them in bloom. If you see a berry on it, you know that it's a female.
That's right.
Okay. All right. And any holly will pollinate any other holly as long as they're blooming at the same time, and that's the key. If you have a deciduous holly, you got to make sure you have the right male, otherwise you won't have berries. Nandinas are another one that was an old-time plant that people like to cut the berries at Christmas. Grew 6 feet tall, got leggy and ugly. But there are hundreds of varieties. Now, this is a new one called Lemon Lime, and it's absolutely beautiful. Only gets about 3 feet tall. There's one called Harbor Bell that only gets about 6 to 8 inches and produces berries, which a lot of the dwarfs don't. So there's a world of new ones in blush pink colors, bright reds, oranges. They've just done a whole lot with Nandinas. And again, you have no issues with them at all. No insects, no diseases. They're just really a great plant.
No insects,
no
insects. How about that? There you go.
You can't get one any better than Nandina.
That's right.
The last one we're going to talk about here, and it's something that a lot of people don't think about for foundation planting, is a blueberry. They're great plants, good fall red color. They're going to get about 6 feet tall. You trim them once a year, but you don't have to do that until about year 4 or 5, and you get all the berries. Now these are rabbit eyes, or they're the ones that are best suited for the South, so you need to have at least 2 and preferably 3 varieties to get good pollination. But it's a wonderful, wonderful plant. Very few insects or diseases bother them. In the shade, the plant looks a little better, but it doesn't berry as much, but it'll put it out in full sun, and you'll get some red color during the growing season. You'll have all these berries, one for the kid next door, one for the bird, one for you. So but it's really an underlooked plant that Memphis has an evergreen mentality, and they have trouble planting things that are going to be deciduous in front of their house, but they miss out on hydrangeas and blueberries and so many really cool things.
I like the evergreen mentality. How
They
about
do,
that?
they do. You know, so many people go, does it die in the winter? Yeah, and it's born again in the spring. Hallelujah. It's, you know, but you know, deciduous doesn't mean bad. It
Right,
just
it's not
means
bad. How about that?
it drops its leaf.
Now let me ask you this. So how do we prepare our soils?
Well,
You know, for these plants
the
that you're
most
talking
important thing is loosening. You know, most everything that we grow here that we like doesn't grow here naturally.
Okay,
It likes less heavy soils, better drainage than we have. So that's the key. Plant everything here high.
Okay.
Dig no deeper than your container, and we want it to stick up about like this, because when we have, like last night, heavy rains, we want to have part of that root ball exposed to air, so that it doesn't drown.
Okay.
So many plants won't tolerate that for long periods of time. And even though the plant may actually die in that water, you may not know it for several months. It'll sprout, look good, and then along about June, it dies and you blame your husband. But it died 3 months earlier. You just didn't know it. So, you know, loosening soil is most important. Twice as wide, mix some organic matter in there, but don't overdo it. 15, 20%, like y'all were talking about earlier, is about right.
Okay. Now let's talk about, how about pruning? Especially like the Yaupon Holly. We get that question all the time. What's the best way to do that, though?
Well, it depends on what you want. Most people take plants like this, that type, and shear it for
over the top.
And that's okay. Okay. If you were to let it grow, it would be more natural, open, and airy. But with things like that, just tip trim them, and you can do them pretty much any time. But you want to stop about the 1st of July. After that, the new growth is not likely to harden off for winter, and you can get some burn back in it. So anytime from March up till then, you can trim it as much as you want. Now, you know, things like hollies, like the oak leaf there, you want to trim from the inside usually. Reach down in there if you've got a place that's open and let it re-break and fill back up through there.
Okay. Gotcha.
With blueberries, what you'll do is about year 5, you'll see some canes down in there that look like birch trees. They've begun to split and have loose bark on them. Take out 3 or 4 of the oldest ones, because about 5 years is all you'll get a good production out of a cane.
I was going to ask you that. Okay.
Yeah,
5 years. Okay.
And then let them re-sprout back up through it, and just once a year, right after you've harvested the fruit, then go ahead and cut them back.
Now about the blueberries, what about the sphagnum moss?
Well,
I've heard that you put it in the.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of sphagnum moss. Okay, now they do like a very low pH, you know, 4.5 to 5,
wow, that's low.
and they're real happy at that. You know, even more acidic than azaleas. So that's critical that you get them in that range to get good production. And usually you can add a little aluminum sulfate or something like that. You know, if you ever go to a peat moss bog up in Canada, nothing grows there but peat moss and pine trees. So, you know, that kind of tells me something.
Right.
Mother Nature has done a really good job at just showing us, hey, look, we put leaves and sticks in the ground. You know, don't argue with her. Do what she wants you to do.
That's right.
You know?
One problem I had when first time I planted blueberries, I didn't do my homework, and I grabbed every blueberry plant they had at the place I got them from, not knowing there was a difference between north and south blueberries.
Well, there are. Now, the high bush, you'll see southern high bush offered sometimes here. And in fact, University of Georgia is introducing a lot of new varieties. They are self-pollinating, so you don't have to have but one. But it's kind of a misnomer, because high bush don't get as tall as rabbit eyes. You know, but they're just not well suited for our poor drainage here and our hot night soils. You'll have much better luck with rabbit eyes.
Mr. Jim, good stuff, man.
Hey, glad to do it,
man.
Chris.
Appreciate
Always a pleasure.
All right, thank you much. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. To find out more information on this topic, just click on the familyplotgarden.com link in the description.